Well, welcome to Infocom Vegas for 2016. My name's Clive Couldwell. I'm editor of AV magazine, and we're going to be running, as you probably gathered, some sessions, filming sessions today and tomorrow at the show, looking at a number of AV infrastructure type of scenarios really. First today looking at enterprise AV, looking at what some of the issues are about installing AV right across companies worldwide. This afternoon we're going to have a session on the Internet of Things, IoT, and tomorrow we're going to be looking at collaboration, which is probably again going to focus on some of the infrastructure integration issues that really are uppermost in people's minds at the moment. But for today, we very kindly have three guests with me. On the far side is Julian Phillips, who is Executive Vice President of Whitlock. On his left is Hans-Jorg Ulmer, I shall refer to him as Hans because I'm absolutely awful at languages, owner of Absolut Technologies in Brazil. And to his left is Mr. Byron Tarry. Byron Tarry, Director of Enterprise Solutions, Sharps AV, and is the current GPA President. As you can probably tell, I'm not very good at names, but I'm far more eloquent when I'm talking normally. Very welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming. I'm sure it's a busy time for you. Thanks for sparing some time after your meeting today. It's a sort of enterprise AV. It's a bit of a catch-all situation now, considering you're all integrators and looking at a lot of the big global issues. I just wanted to sort of talk about, when you're talking about, I suppose, what we call these days intelligent enterprise or intelligent companies, just what place does AV have in the way technology is both defined and installed and integrated at those sort of high levels? Do you get the impression that people are thinking strategically about AV, or are we approaching a point now where just AV is within the IT mix and therefore is just discussed as it would be as any infrastructure technology? Julian, can you kick us off? What do you think? Am I getting a bit too lofty?
No, not lofty at all. I think 5 years ago, I don't think many organizations were thinking strategically about AV. And I think one of the great enablers for them to start to think about it from a strategic perspective was really the prospect of the deployment of unified communications and video technology principally. And as a direct result of that, AV started to actually appear on the radar as being something that couldn't be a standalone technology platform anymore. You can't have a UC platform that is operated and managed and controlled by a completely separate organization within the enterprise and have AV as a silo on its own. It just wasn't going to work that way. So we saw the start of a process where AV often not only was a technology silo, it was also an organizational silo in the enterprise. And so it often used to report to facilities or real estate. It could sometimes reported into telecoms or in security even, or catering. We've even seen that with AV. And over a period of time, we saw the gradual organizational restructure to bring AV principally under the management control of IT. So I think, let's forget about the technology for 1 second, that organizational change needed to happen before we could actually sit down and then talk about the enterprise story and how that came together. And the reason it happened was a fact that AV is no longer a support tool and a nice to have. It became a really essential technology to support productivity across the enterprise. And it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to bring it under that singular domain.
Now the nice thing with having you three along, you've got UK and US represented, Hans from Brazil and Byron from Canada. So it'd be nice to get three areas of thought. I mean, do you think this is a sort of high level view of AV that's being shared? Hans, certainly in Brazil, I mean, developing country, come on leaps and bounds, was the biggest market, I think, for AV until a short time ago. I mean, has this been thought of as strategic, or is it still component level?
It's still on the component level. In Brazil, we are generally 1 or 2 years behind the trends and tendencies of other first world countries. So AV is still being observed as a standalone solution. You should have 1 or 2 or 10 rooms in your company. You use it, and mostly the opinion of the most executive is, we have it, it does not work. Who can it fix? Who can make it work? But during the last 12 months, this started to change very fast. because they see what's happening in the US, they see what's happening in Europe, and they start to see that AV will be a more strategic tool to get to a more intelligent enterprise. Also the workforce for the millenniums which come in, younger people join the teams getting executive roles, they start to move this opinion of the older executives.
Byron, I'm sure it's not going to affect the Canadians. I mean, you know, we don't know very much about the Canadian AV market really, or how it goes. So nice to have you along today to explain it to us, really.
Yeah, I think Canada's not typically terribly far behind the US, but I think as I'm listening to those comments, that the AV-IT convergence really saw the growing up and the maturing of the AV industry through processes, through many of the things that IT have been doing for a long time. I think we're at a cusp where there's been a recognition in many enterprises of the value of the importance of AV, where I think we're still evolving and where in any maturing market you get that diversity from those that really get it and are starting to really look at operationally optimizing the way they deal with this infrastructure that's so now important to at least the potential of the collaborative environments that we're trying to create. But there's still a very wide diversity in what I'd say the strategic approach to how they actually truly fulfill and leverage that. So we see all manner from customers who really have still failed to even think about the fact that they need to make a smart room in every room so that they can start to monitor, they can start to manage and so on, all the way through to the opposite extremes of companies who are really actually starting to look beyond one or two platforms and starting to integrate multiple platforms to integrate together to be able to create an exceptional user experience. We've heard Whitlock talk about this exceptional experience for a number of years now, and certainly that addresses the space, the technology and the people, but strategically being able to bring all three of those together in a logical and holistic sense still has a ways to go in many organizations.
Have the integrators had to learn IT skills to be able to, develop this idea of AV being part of the mix, really? Has that been a new set of skills that they've had to take on board? And I'm assuming we're there now, are they? I mean, we had a big integrator roundtable a short while ago, and it sounded to me as though everyone really was pretty IT literate, I thought. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, well, is this an issue? But I don't get the feeling now that it is. Is that your finding, Julian?
Absolutely. We need to integrate, or we need to add the IT skills to our company. What we made in Special, we had some IT guys for our internal use, and now we are looking and hiring IT guys who can work for our pre-sales and sales department to satisfy the needs of our customers and to go in really and resolve all the issues which are coming up with that convergence between AV and IT. So absolutely, it's we needed to add IT competence to our team and to our whole company.
I think it's a question though of what is IT competence, and I certainly had a perspective in years past that was a guy that knew how to now manage getting an IP address and transporting, whether it was communication or control over the network. But I think it's moving beyond that now. That's just table stakes to get started. But the reality is solution integration in an IT environment involves workflow analysis, involves depth in database integration and so on. And those are the skills that I think that there is still quite a disparity. Most AV integrators know how to plug it in and put it on the network, but can they get to that strategic level of understanding workflow, understanding the holistic depths of how that technology is actually going to apply? And I think there's still a gap there. And there are certainly leading organizations, the likes of Whitlock, for example, who've invested for many years in that environment. But then there's still a lot that are lagging a long way behind.
It's interesting you should mention that, because one of the big things that came out of our roundtable discussion was this investment in accreditation and everything else, which was an enormous amount of money for most people. And that was seen to be at the top of their list when it came to investment, that most people didn't realise. And to which I say, well, is this a tick box type of request, or are these serious integration skills that had to be brought on board by people asking? And I just don't know. I mean, it seems to be that, I'm not sure whether I'm dealing with an IT integrator or an AV integrator. So are you attracting IT people, professionals into your professional environment, or where's it going? Or are you doing internal? Obviously accreditation is an enormous investment, but presumably that and trying to pull new people in.
Yeah, but we don't pull them in just so that we can tick the boxes and say that we have the certifications.
Don't for one moment you're doing it.
It's interesting. I mean,
with tenders there is that sort of tick box mentality.
There is, but it actually serves a redundant purpose if that's your game. 2 or 3 years ago, we weren't a Microsoft Gold communications partner. We are today, and considered by Microsoft to be one of their, a rising partner of value. And so, I think that in some cases, this whole AVIT thing, we should just stop talking about it, because I think it either puts certain people off, or it sort of confuses what the issue is. And so, I would much prefer just talk about we're a technology company. And as a technology company, what we do is we create great solutions and outcomes for customers, taking the very best of AV technology, the bits of IT technology, and our role is to really make this stuff work. And so what Byron was referring to is the big opportunity for us is not necessarily just being a reseller of other people's technology, whether it be AV and IT. The real opportunity for us is putting the middleware in and doing the custom integration. Yeah. And when we say a word like programmer, you say programmer in the AV world, and they go, oh, are you Crestron or AMX? Well, actually, we need to actually start having programmers who might be C# programmers, or those that actually have a .NET development background, for example. And so that's where the money is going to be. So I think if you're an integrator and you're actually trying to figure out over the next 4 or 5 years where your growth and profitability is going to come from, you can't say, I'm not going to be playing in IT, and you actually have to embrace it and actually use the opportunity you have to grow great value for your customers and for yourselves.
I fully agree. I think the concept of are you an AV integrator or an IT integrator, we need to take off the table. We're a solutions integrator. We engage with organizations, we understand their critical business issues, and we solve those problems with technology. You talk about a programmer may have different skill sets, but indeed there's a whole different skill set of solution architecture in an IT type of environment. That's a skill set that we as integrators need to evolve and mature to. So it's not just about retraining or hiring another programmer, but it's actually about bringing in whole new skill sets that have not typically been a skill set that we in a traditional AV sense have ever had.
See, I've always attached a huge meaning and value to AV. I mean, it's good that people are above the water level, if you like, having AV expertise. I've always thought of the AV effect, and underneath that is a variety of whatever technology you choose to use. I wouldn't like to see that disappear into some morass of solutions where you can't see the AV with the IT. I think there's a value to retain that, surely.
Absolutely, there is, and not only retain it, but to grow and develop it. And so let me share with you a phrase which might help to demonstrate the real value of AV in addition to IT skills. And I'll call it real-time service delivery. And that's on the basis that a lot of IT models are based on that sort of near-time support model. If I have an event on my IT that goes wrong and my email stops working or a server goes down, I put a ticket in and I raise the ticket, and if you're lucky, 4 or 5 hours later, someone has gone through a process to fix the event. You don't have that luxury in AV. I mean, you've got the CEO standing up actually doing a results presentation, not only to 50 people in the room, but 10,000 people on a live stream. You have the support model, which basically means if something goes wrong, you have to respond, and you actually have to deliver value, and that's what AV has actually been known for.
Yes, high expectations.
It brings people together with technology in a real-time environment, and those skills are actually in high demand, more than they've ever been. And so I don't see this as a negative thing for AV. I actually see it as a massive opportunity, and we can differentiate our value very clearly from what a lot of the other IT guys do. And also a lot of the other IT guys don't want to do what we do. No. They actually look at it and they go, that's really scary and quite difficult.
They're never taught how to do it, are they? They're woefully inadequate with AV skills.
I'm not going to say they're woefully inadequate, but I think they're certainly not aware of the value, often of the value of what AV actually can bring. And I think sometimes they're a little bit dismissive of AV because we don't necessarily conform to the same kind of rigid open standards architectures that they've been growing up with, and so they are a little bit wary of it. But my experience has been when IT guys grab hold of AV, which they increasingly are, and they actually start to engage with it and look at the value that it brings, they actually grow to love it. And they want to know more, and they want to engage. So there's a desire for IT people to know about AV, and there's a desire for AV people to know about IT, and it's a very healthy thing.
Interesting, Hans mentioned that the appearance of the millennials. I mean, we're dealing with a different kind of potentially business manager now. Is demanding different types of tools and expecting an environment to deliver what they want to deliver. Now, the old school didn't really think of it in that sense, did they? So I think the game's moved on by the type of individuals now having high-value IT and AV at home, you know, expecting that in the same workplace, from the graduates who are coming into companies now to those probably about to run them. So I think you were dealing with a different sort of end user, if you like, more knowledgeable, more expectant of technology that's already integrated and easy to use and delivers what they need to have it deliver.
Yep.
So perhaps that's going to change the balance of things as well. So we'll have a slightly different type of end user demanding this actually is in place. So the two could come together quite well, really.
And with the speed at which they move on within organisations, if they don't get that fulfilled, they'll be gone within the 6 or 12 or 24 months, which is really the time that they start to contribute most. So one of our members was talking about a customer in the UK who made a technology and workplace transformation strategy a key to their business growth, because they could not attract in the staid old building that they were in, traditional old building of an insurance company, they could not attract the talent that they needed to, and instead transformed their entire workplace and went into the most modern building in London and built their business on the back of that retention and attraction of talent, simply by providing those technology tools that they demanded.
So finally, what are we going to call this new AV professional coming out that's versed in technology, AV technology and IT? Are we going to call them AV professionals, or are we going to call them, at the moment it's specifically AV IT and facilities management, but is it going to morph into something quite different? I mean, it's difficult to see where it goes, isn't it, really?
I think it's a useful analogy to help to explain this is that if you think about the medical profession, you have many, many different people who are part of the medical profession, and yet they quite happily coexist with specialists. So, you know, if I'm an oncologist, then I'm a member of the healthcare profession. It just so happens that I specialize in oncology and cancer. And so from that perspective, I think AV and the technology and IT integrated world is a similar thing. We're all part of this technology marketplace, but we just happen to specialize in one particular area. But there are certain skills you need to have as an oncologist that are the same skills as somebody who's actually a skin doctor or somebody that actually does pediatrics, for example. And so from that perspective, I think we've got to grow up realizing that there's going to have to be a lot of cross-functional skills we have, whether it be IT, networking, what have you. We just then end up specializing in a particular area. And so I think, let's call them technology professionals, of which I very proudly wear my badge as being an AV professional within that profession.
Well, I think if you look at the very term AV, it's really talking about a product. And that's been one of our problems for so long. We've sold products rather than selling solutions. So I actually think that there is value in transitioning into new terms. Collaboration specialization within an IT environment, a broader information technology environment, is probably a far more appropriate term than saying you're the guy that sells the boxes that were traditionally known as AV.
That's very good.
Something I'm telling always to my engineers, my people, I tell them, you need to look ahead, you need to look in the IT business, you need to learn these skills to be prepared for the future, and at a certain point, up to now, they don't believe this really, and that's our work for them to show them you need to get other skills, you need to get more spread out, have not only the knowledge you're having right now, and thinking this will stay the same. If not, you're out of this business over the next 2 or 3 years.
And that's a good place to leave it. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Julian, Hans, Byron, thank you for joining us. It's been most illuminating.
All right.
And thank you for joining us. Our next session starts later, in about an hour's time on IoT. Thanks very much. See you then.